Hey guys, I hope you're well. I hope this is live and I hope that you can hear me. Before we start the Q&A, I just want to wish you all a very happy new year for 23. And thank you all so much for the support that you've given me throughout 2022. And obviously before that, if you've followed and supported me for a while. It's been a mega year for me, really has. And I've produced a lot of content and been up to a lot of amazing adventures, some of which I'll cover hopefully in this live. And I've learned a lot about myself as well throughout this year. So it's been a really good year in terms of growth in many ways. So yeah, really looking forward to next year. Hope this camera angle is okay. It's different to the way I set it up. I'm just going to play around with this very quickly. And yeah, looks like I'm looking down because the camera's above me, but that's anyway, first world problems. So we've got lots of questions and comments coming in, which is great to see. I can just glance over there. I can see Petrol Ped is in the chat. Hope you're well, mate. Well, in fact, I know you're well because I spoke to you about half an hour ago. You're having a really lovely trip. I think somewhere in the south of France or in the Alps at the moment. But yeah, I would say I'm jealous, but obviously I can't really say that because I've been away so much recently as well. But happy New Year, mate. Let's see if I can bring this chat over to the left a bit so I can have a look at what's going on. Beer of choice this evening is Hoegaarden. And then I might head on to wine after this. I've only got two of these, so and I'm stone cold sober at the moment. Not that the idea of these are to get drunk, obviously, but it does help for me anyway. I'm less shy after I've had a couple of drinks. So let's just have a look. Okay, well, it looks like you can hear me at least because there's lots and lots of comments coming through, which is awesome. Before I start reading the comments and going into what people have sort of want to ask me, I just want to talk about my standout sort of cars, videos, adventures of 22 just quickly, because obviously this is going to be on the channel for a while, if not forever, this video. So just want to take the opportunity to sort of talk about the amazing adventures I've got up to this year. Now, I've written a small list. I'm going to go through those quickly. So first one, believe it or not, this is a big surprise probably to everyone, is actually the Z4 M40i I had that was an AC Schnitzer car from Tony Lewis. I really enjoyed my time with that car. I thought it was just brilliant. I really enjoyed, I think Lou and I had it for most of January and February before my X-Drive M3 arrived. And I really loved my time with that car. I thought it was just brilliant. It really was. It was an exciting car to drive. It was comfortable. It was nice with the roof off. And I gauge my cars on how good they are after I've given them back most of the time, because if I miss them, then they're brilliant. If I've completely forgotten about them within 24 hours, then obviously they're not that great. I am very fortunate that I get to drive a lot of lovely cars, especially nowadays. And that Z4 M40i is a brilliant car. And it's a shame that BMW haven't sold lots of them. At least in the UK, you don't see many Z4s, especially the M40is. So yeah, really cool. I know Nick Fox has got one, and I totally understand why, because it's a very, very great car. Next highlight, I think it was around the similar sort of time, maybe March time, was obviously going off to Finland with Michelin when I announced my sort of ambassadorship there. But that trip in general was just brilliant. Even the non-car related stuff being towed along by huskies, the snow, the environment. I mean, what a beautiful country. Totally alien to us, sort of, I guess, well, especially us Londoners or people that from the UK. If you've never been to anywhere like that, it's just mind-blowingly beautiful. And that was cool. That was a really brilliant trip. It was a great way to sort of kick off my Michelin relationship, I guess, for 22. M2 pre-drive was the next massive thing for me, huge milestone. I mean, yeah, I remember when the invite came in for that, and I almost thought it was a mistake, because I know I do a lot for BMW. I know I sell a lot of cars for them, M cars, and I know that, you know, obviously I'm obsessed with them myself, and I also spend my own hard cash on them. But getting invited to a pre-drive for something like the M2, where the invites are so limited, was very special, and that trip was awesome. It was very, like, blink and you miss it. It was like, right, here's a briefing, here's the information, you've got 5 minutes to memorize it, you don't know the circuit, you've got 4 laps out there, and see you later, sort of thing. And some press trips are like that, but that one was really, because the car was so secret, and it was very difficult in that sense. And I was on the plane on the way home thinking, I can't even remember anything about it. People have asked me since, what's it like? It's like, watch the video, because I genuinely can't really remember, because it was just so quick. But on that note, I will be driving final production M2 early next year, I think sort of end of March-ish time. So I'm guessing the embargo is going to lift early April maybe. So a lot of people have been asking me about that, understandably. So that's going to be coming to the channel. The next one is my bike license, my motorbike license. I've wanted to get it for years. I love motorbikes. I love MotoGP and superbikes, and I just have so much admiration and respect for all those racers, way more than F1 drivers and all that sort of thing. And I think having my motorbike license finally is great. So I'm looking forward to doing a lot more content with bikes when the weather gets better next year. Hopefully do more with my good friend Chris Baron von Grumble, and maybe go on a little touring trip somewhere on a BMW GS or something. That's the dream. Taking one of them to the Alps would just be amazing. Maybe Lou could fly out and meet me out there, because I think the trip out there would be a little bit boring in the saddle on a bike through France. Then 730D trip. I can see Patrick Films is actually in the comments. That was just such an epic trip. I mean, the idea has been bugging me for a long time. The trip took so much planning, but yet when we were sort of getting ready the night before in the hotel in London, I kind of still felt so unplanned, unprepared for that trip. And I think we couldn't have really planned any more for it, but it was just, yeah, little did we know how hard it was going to be on the mind, sitting at 60 miles an hour-ish to try and be as efficient as possible. I think if we sat at 50, it was probably more efficient, 52, but that would have just been even more painful. But trying to sit at 60 without using the cruise control, being as efficient as possible, I couldn't have done that on my own for sure. So it was great having Patrick there. But that was epic, and obviously did really well. That video is approaching, I think, 600,000 views. So super chuffed with that, and massive thanks to all of you guys and girls for watching it and supporting that trip. And then the most recent one, obviously I've missed out so many in between, but the most recent standout, before I stop talking and read some of your questions, is the GT3 touring trip. Now that's just, I mean, yeah, I don't think I'm ever gonna beat that trip in terms of a bucket list trip, press trips and all that. You know, I get some amazing opportunities, but that was my selfish idea, in the sense that it was like, this is my dream car and this is where I want to take it, and it's going to cost me this much. And then thankfully, again, Patrick, when I told Patrick the idea, he was like, oh, I'll come along and help you, and help you film and stuff. And then he got to drive the car as well. Actually, there's another video on that coming very soon. It's coming either tomorrow night, Friday night, or Sunday night. I'm not sure which will be the better night with New Year's and stuff, but it's edited. It's 54 minutes long. So yeah, if you're not going to be sick of listening to me tonight, then it's definitely worth watching that, because it's a really good, like, diary sort of vlogging trip, if you like. But I quite enjoyed editing it, just going back through the adventures that Pat and I got up to. But yeah, before I talk about sort of what's going on next year, I'm going to take some questions. One other thing I did want to talk about was, obviously I got engaged this year with Lou, which was amazing. That was a huge thing in my life. lose a massive part of my life now, which is really amazing. And the M2 build as well. The M2 build was epic. Swift Performance, all those guys have just been amazing, as have a lot of the people that have helped along the way. And the fact that it's been in Evo magazine, that's a big milestone for me. My dream one day would be to be on their panel of judges for Evo Car of the Year or something. That would just be awesome. But anyway, let's see what happens. Let's go into some questions. Wow, there's a lot of comments there. Thank you very much. I better have another sip of beer. Right, what have we got here? So from something other. I can't quite see the handle there. Jumachum, maybe. Ever thought of owning an M140i again? Great question, and it is something that crosses my mind a lot. I would love to own one again one day, but I would need a lot of money in order to own one, in the sense that it would really be an accessory. You know, it'd be something that would be there just for the sake of being there. It'd be a great daily, it'd be a great run around. I think if my other half didn't work for Audi and didn't work in the car industry, I'd really try and convince us that we needed something like a M140i that would be a run around, and my toy as well. But I think I have been looking at M135is, the early, obviously 2013. I wish I could find my original car, because I'd definitely buy that back. And I was offered it a couple of years ago. It was traded in to the dealership that I actually bought it off, Hailsham, Chandler's Hailsham, and they offered it to me for a silly amount of money, as in silly low. And at the time I had no money. It was like 2018, 2019. Didn't have a pot to piss in, really, or I didn't have excess money like that. I think it was about $7,000 or something they wanted for it. Done a lot of miles, but didn't buy it, and I really regret that, because number one, it would have gone up in value, because they all have since then, and number two, it would have just been great sentimentally having that Estoril blue M135i, 5-door auto, business nav, heat seats. What did I have? Adaptive suspension. Anyway, cool car. Hey, Rolini's in. I love it. I know Rolini's in the chat, because the cheap bids start coming through. Thanks, mate. That is hilarious. 79 pence on the board. Yes, that's all I was here for tonight. It was 79 pence. So yeah, I think I'm going to call it night. Thanks for watching, guys. See you soon. Good to see you, Rolini. And apologies if I am missing out. This I'm sure there's some awesome. Okay, Reggie Cray, R8 and GT Porsche. I'm not sure if they're the standout cars for you. I'm not sure what that was in relation to. Let's have a look. Best colors for the M2C from Alejandro. Good question. I mean, there's not many, is there? There's not a massive amount of colors to choose from. I think if you put me on the spot now, I think black's a nice safe bet for the M2, because we all know it looks good on the M240i, because it kind of masks some of the slightly curious design around the back end. But I really like the blue, Zandvoort blue. And it's ironic, because obviously they were the leak pictures and it looked awful in those early shots. But I think I would have a Zandvoort blue M2. If you ask me right now, Zandvoort blue, carbon buckets. Yeah, brilliant. I think that car's still, I know it's a lot of money, and I know I keep saying it and people assume and call me out for being paid by BMW. I'm not paid by BMW. I wish I was. The likes of Autocar and a number of other people are paid an awful lot of money from BMW, but I'm not paid a penny. But I still think 60 grand for an M2, when you compare it to what else is out there, it's a lot of money. But in this day and age, what it comes with, standard equipment, it's a lot of car. You know, it's makes the M4 look very expensive, in my humble opinion. Anyway, let's move on. Alex Motram, I have a 2015 RS3 and thinking of changing it for a G21 M340i. Will I be disappointed? Depends on the year of the G21 because they've changed a lot. The earlier ones, when did they first come out? 2018. They were a lot fruitier. They had a bit more sound, a bit more exhaust note, a bit more character. They've been numbed down a bit over the past 4 years as restrictions and regulations have become tighter. So I think, will you be disappointed with one? I don't think you'd be disappointed with one because, I mean, the RS3, the 2015 RS3, the great thing with that car is obviously the engine is the heart of it. It makes a great sound. It goes well. It's got a lot of character. The cabin is also very nice. I personally think the M340i will blow it away in terms of driving position, in terms of infotainment system and interior in general, even though the RS3 is a lovely interior. But I think also it's going to be a lot more efficient. And I know most people say, oh, they don't care about that. But really, when fuel's, relatively expensive, it's going to be a lot more efficient when you're driving it normally. And ride quality is probably going to be better as well. I mean, I really like the M340i, really do. I think in terms of pace, if your RS3 is a standard stock sort of car, I think they're going to be very similar in terms of outright pace. But yeah, I mean, personally, I would have the M340i. It's going to handle dynamically a little bit better. But yeah, who knows? It's definitely not going to be a downgrade. It's just going to, if anything, be a sidestep. But I think you're going to really enjoy it. Brooklyn Grey is a nice colour for the 3 Series from Ahmed. That's very true. Brooklyn Grey's, yeah, it kind of works on most cars. Just doesn't look that good when it's dirty. So I don't think it would work well for me because my cars are never clean, as many of you probably know and can vouch for. From Septimiu, is M5 Comp suspension better than Porsche Turbo GT? I wouldn't say it is. They're very similar. They're both very firm, but I think the M5 Comp's biggest downfall is its overly stiff and fairly wooden suspension. That's its biggest downfall. And I think the fact it has those brilliant seats in the front make up for some of that because those seats absorb a lot of the smaller niggles and stuff. But yeah, I think, and that's the biggest upgrade to the M5 CS is the suspension, in my opinion, how good it feels. So I'd say the Porsche Turbo GT, Cayenne Turbo GT is going to be a little bit better in terms of ride quality, but don't quote me on that because I haven't really driven them back to back. I haven't driven an M5 Comp for a long time. It's been way too long. One of my favorite cars, and I haven't driven. Got an M8 Comp coming in February for a couple of weeks just to revisit it. Obviously, they've updated it. I think what they've done is put some eBay M badges all over it, but hopefully done a few extra bits. But I also want to sort of appreciate that car again because I think the M8's been a real, not disaster for BMW, but I can't. I mean, they probably weren't expecting to sell loads, but I think the M8's biggest problem nowadays is the M4. It's a hard argument as to why you'd spend an extra 30 or 40 grand on an M8 over the M4. The M8's arguably maybe a little bit prettier, especially the front end. And it has the brilliant V8, but is that worth an extra 30, 40%? I don't know. Who knows? James Switchert's in the chat. He did ask me a question, but it's been retracted. Maybe it was about my amazing hairline or something. I don't know. Literally looks like Bibendum is standing on my head. I didn't set that up on purpose. I think I'm actually running on the wrong camera, if that makes sense. I thought I was running on my Logitech, but this seems to be my studio display camera. Let's have a look. It is. That's a shame. Okay. Yeah, I thought the color and everything's just gone. It's gone really flat. That's a real shame. I had my Logitech set up. That took the thumbnail, loads of color. Anyway, right. On to some other questions. But I have another. From John Crew. Excuse me. More roads to app driving stuff next year, question mark. Enjoyed the one in May. Yes, thanks a lot for coming to that, John. Really good to see you. And yes, definitely going to do some more roads to app stuff next year. I was actually trying to squeeze one in this week, but as with everything, time's just flying. Weather's just been a bit average. Today was nice, but yeah, definitely I'm going to try and do one in January. I think it's brilliant. It's a brilliant app. Obviously, I worked with them a bit in 22, but organically, I think it's a fantastic idea, and I think their success and how big that app has become is the proof is sort of in the pudding. It's a brilliant idea. I really like the car community in general. Bring some great people together. Doesn't matter, all walks of life, all types of cars. Really cool idea. So yeah, we'll be doing some more. Reggie Cray, love your Michelin man. Thank you very much. Yeah, we Patrick and I took him on our recent trip to Austria. Actually, thankfully he came back. I'm gutted because when I got that sort of, I think about 18 months ago, I was told straight away that they're only making like 10 or 20 of them or something. And I know I got one, and Jonathan Benson got one, and that's it. And a lot of people ask me where I can get one, or I wish I had a load to give away, because I really do like it a lot. It's got a bit of mud in it from our Austria trip, which I'm quite gutted about, but at least he got out and about and he's not just sitting inside all the time, because it'd get a bit boring for him. Elliot, do you watch any other YouTubers' content? Yes, absolutely. I watch lots of YouTube. Always gives me a bit of inspiration and ideas, and I guess that's kind of where the channel started for me, in the sense that I watched a lot of older, not older, they're still younger than me, but people that have been in the industry longer. Obviously, I watch a lot of my closer mates, Petrol Ped, Steph stuff, and I watch obviously Car Wow, all the normal stuff, JM and Cars as well. I like his stuff. I think his documentary stuff's amazing. He done that recently, that F1 documentary on the MP44. That was just incredible. Jonathan Benson tire reviews, obviously. I mean, I'm probably missing a load of people. Casey Neistat, obviously, now that he's back in New York, and yeah, I love all of that. Car Obsession, yeah, watch some of his as well. He's in the chat. Yeah, no, I do. I watch your stuff, mate. I always comment on it. And yeah, so I watch. Yeah, I do watch a fair amount. But I think sometimes if I'm watching too much, and I'm like, why am I not filming myself or editing myself? And it's very easy to get distracted. Tim King in the chat. How's it going, Tim? I hope you're well, mate. Tim King. So Tim is probably one of the sort of best, quickest photographers out there who's not a photographer, in the sense that he works for BMW UK. You're probably familiar with Tim King. A lot of people follow him nowadays. But he takes some brilliant pictures, mostly brilliant. The other day, he framed some awful pictures up, but on the whole, they're very good. And yeah, he gets a lot of the pre-production cars that are part of BMW UK, and they end up all over the internet. So yeah, fair play to him. And he's super helpful to anyone that's basically got a BMW. So yeah, very cool. Matt H, got to say, I'm so pleased to see Control and Shift are still trading, as I think the quality of the merch is great. Love my many t-shirts and jacket. Thank you very much, Matt. I don't know if you saw my maybe an Instagram post. I don't have anything to do with Control and Shift anymore, unfortunately. But yeah, it seems like they're still going, and yeah, it looks like new stuff's coming out, and so yeah, good luck to them. And yeah, it just didn't work out, unfortunately. Jack Payne, thanks for the lap in Grilles, Goodwood, a few weeks ago. It was amazing. Would you ever organise a road trip, aka Petrolhead Tours style? That's a great question, Jack. And firstly, thanks for coming down. To everyone that made that charity track day, me and Petrolhead were flat out taking people out, giggling. Weather wasn't ideal, but it didn't dampen spirits. It was very damp. But we managed to sort of make a great day out of a fairly average weather day. And Yeah, it was great. Really, really some entertaining passengers. I think, Jack, your lap was one of the first, so we didn't really get to go that fast because it was, I don't know, when it's like 2 degrees and wet and damp and at Goodwood. I love Goodwood. It's one of my favourite circuits, but when it's under 5 degrees and it's wet, I just don't. That to me isn't appealing. I don't have the talent to make it appealing. Or I'll very quickly run out of talent when it becomes less appealing. So, but good question, Jack. And it is something that I have been talking to Pete about for the past year and a half. I kind of wanted to do let's call it a Joe Achilles petrol head tour, whereby sort of, it's a my route, my tailored route, but those guys run it because obviously they're the best in the business. We haven't made it happen. The problem with those guys is that they're the, what's the saying? Something of their own success. I can't remember, but they're just so every year on year, they get more and more and more busy, and they put on more and more tours. Not just the tours you see on the internet. They're hosting loads of other private tours as well. And unfortunately, I'm always getting in there a bit too late, and Pete's, there's only one Pete and there's only one Dan, and they can only do so much. So long and short of it is, unfortunately not. I really, really want to do one. I would love to take a group of people to a 3 or 4 day Alps trip and show everyone some of the roads that I know and just share that experience with people, because to me, there's nothing better. There's literally nothing better than jumping in the car like Patrick and I did 2 weeks ago. The RS6 went straight to Austria. There's nothing better. Getting to the Alps, getting to the amazing roads out in the middle of nowhere, where it's safe to, maybe touch the speed limit or above a few times, and there's nothing. There's just it's beautiful out there. It's amazing. So different to condensed UK. Everywhere in the UK is just busy. Anywhere and what you have to go all the way up to beautiful Scotland or something, which is then the same distance. Anyway, I'm blabbering on, but the long and short of it is, I really want to make something like that happen, but I couldn't do it on my own, and I couldn't do it without the help of Pete and Dan or someone like that, because I need an organization to run it properly, because just in case something happened, or I don't want it to be on my back, and that's the problem I think I've got. So I'll try and organize one with mates where it's not like a business. It's just hey, I'm going here. Do you want to join me? But yeah, it will happen. It will happen, but probably not in 23. It will happen beyond that. So really, looking forward to it. Let me have a look at some of these questions. Tim King, when are you getting your first motorcycle? Well, good question. I think it'll be a while from now, because Lou and I have, fingers crossed and touch wood. I'm touching a table, by the way. Not, yeah. Well, yeah, we're hopefully going to be moving into a new house early next year. We've got lots of expenses going on. Got a very big tax bill to pay in the next couple of weeks, etc. So, yeah, in terms of getting a motorbike at the moment, maybe a bit excessive for me, especially when I can get my hands on some press bikes. So let's see. I think realistically, buying my own bike or financing my own bike, because finance deals are really relatively cheap still on motorbikes compared to cars. I think that'll happen in 2024 and onwards. I think next year I'll use as an experiment to see what these bikes are all about and which one I love. But I think it's going to be a GS, just because of my lanky frame and the fact that the GS just does everything. Yeah, but we'll see. Okay, let's have a look. Any OPSEC music, any mountain bike videos? That's another good point. Hopefully next year I will start riding my bike again. I haven't ridden a bike all year, I don't think. I had a big accident end of last summer and recovered from it. Bought a really nice Saracen from my friends at Saracen, and it sat in storage for 18 months. It's it hasn't turned a pedal. The wheels, the tires are flat. It's a beautiful enduro bike, and I'm so embarrassed to even look at it now. So I need to sell that, buy the latest one, just because there's no reason. Just so I don't lose money on it, I guess. And then I will start riding next year. Our new house has got a lovely big garage. It's going to have an exercise turbo trainer set up in there. So I need to start getting a little bit fit because I'm getting a little bit tubby everywhere. I pull it off maybe a bit better than some people because I am tall, but yeah, I'm really out of shape and really overweight. So anyway, Car Obsession, Aaron from Car Obsession. Apologies if this has been asked already on the Q&A, but what's your biggest highlights of the year? What's been your biggest disappointment? Good question. I have gone through my highlights, mate, but I chose, I think, 5 or 6 right at the beginning. But my biggest highlight of the year for sure is the GC3 touring trip. I think that was just epic. I absolutely loved that whole trip. It was a selfish trip. It was something that I chose to do. Cost me an absolute arm and a leg, but at the same time I thought, when am I going to A, have a touring from 9 days, and B, it not be mileage sensitive, and C, have the money in my bank that I can actually go and spend a little bit and enjoy that trip with one of my best friends, Patrick. So that was definitely my highlight of the year, I think. Biggest disappointment, the TTRS Iconic Edition was a bit of a disappointment for me for the money they're asking, 90 grand, and the TTRS is a brilliant car at 60 grand, not at 90 grand. That was a disappointment. Also, I don't know, I've not driven many electric cars this year, thankfully, out of choice. I've been offered a lot, but I'm just not interested. And I think, yeah, I have to say, cars like the Cupra Born, I don't get it. To me, it's almost like, it's really difficult, the whole EV thing, because I get it's the manufacturers are under pressure to build these things and market these horrible things online. These adverts at the moment drive me crazy. The Mercedes one, they're just everywhere. All these horrible EV adverts that are clearly appealing to a young audience and a new audience. So it's kind of over my head, a lot of it. But the Cupra Born is a real shame, because I think Cupra really built a name for themselves. I mean, you're very familiar with Cupra, Aaron, because obviously you've had a couple and you've still got yours, and I think, you know, they really started making some amazing stuff 2017, 2018, and then they've just used that name and stuck it on an ID3 or whatever the bloody thing is, and I just don't. That just, yeah, doesn't do it for me. I think it looks better than ID3, but then they're all doing it. They're all going to do it. They're all just literally using their, well, let's put an AMG badge on this electric car and see if we can fool people. And unfortunately, the majority of people, they just want that badge. They want to say, I've got an M car, an AMG car. They're not interested. They're not like me. They don't like to drive and feel things and get excited by the car having a character. A lot of people just want that badge, and they want to be able to tell their mates that they've got this car, or show, it's all about and I think that's frustratingly, that's why it will eventually all start sort of working, all this horrible marketing that's being produced at the moment. Eventually it kind of will appeal to the majority of people, maybe. So anyway, I'm going off subject. I'm getting upset about EVs. Nothing new there. And now I'm showing you up my nose. Lovely. Right, let's switch to a fresh one, and then we'll get on with some more questions. What we like time-wise? How are we going? Oh, it's only 6:30. Cool. I can bore you guys and girls for another 55 minutes or something. Lucky you. Okay. Rejoice Roan. When choosing between M340D and M340i, do you think there's much to choose from in terms of MPG, motorwork? Very good. Very excellent question, and something that I was discussing with Lou earlier on. We went to actually pick up my M3 from the Schmuseum, and we're in the RS6, and we went past the Shell petrol station on the A41, and 95 was £1.49 a litre, which is amazing for a Shell at the side of a busy A road. I think that's impressive. That's kind of what it was 18 months ago. But diesel was 179. So that's, you say 20 pence, and it is about 20 pence, but there it was 30 pence. 30 pence difference. So when you factor that in, that's actually 20% more expensive. Why has Siri come up? Let's try and get rid of Siri. Go away, Siri. How'd you get rid of Siri? Goodbye. Go away. Oh, no, I don't want to close the wrong page. Go away. Okay. Yeah, 30 pence more. So 20%. So then, as you say, you've got to then think, wait a second, is the 340D going to be more than 20% more efficient than a 340i? Maybe 25%, but not more than 30%. So then you think to yourself, well, I'm sacrificing the straight six petrol sound, although there's not much sound these days. Unfortunately, diesels are becoming less and less appealing as the government forces away from them, add tax onto diesel. You go on the continent, you go to France and Germany and all these places, and actually diesel and petrol are very similar sort of prices. Diesel used to be a lot cheaper, or 10 cents cheaper in France, and now it's about the same, if not a bit more. But over here, we have to pay 20% more. So it's all a con to get us out of diesels or scare us away from diesels. I still think there's a big argument and case for diesels. In fact, James Switchett, who is back in the chat again, he hasn't deleted this comment. M340D for life. He's got an M340D, surprise, surprise. Pre-LCI, the one with the nice screens and all the climate control buttons. Yeah, there's like climate. If you want your seat heater on, you actually press a button. I mean, it's pretty state-of-the-art technology. You don't have to go through all these screens, and you just press a button. It's amazing. Oh, it's incredible. I'm sure someone will think about reintroducing those buttons in many years to come. But yeah, I think personally, I still think engines like the 30D or 40D, they are just great. They are brilliant. In terms of something to live with, I still think that they overshine engines like even the 40i. The 40i is a brilliant, the B58, brilliant engine, but I still think that a 30D is actually a better unit for most of its abilities and most of its operations, if you like. Yeah, but I'm just picking straws. I'm not very good at my sayings. Anyway, on to the next question. Oh, they are flying in. So I'm sure oh my God, Rick the Spud has just thrown in a £5. Rick, what is going on? Okay, so firstly, I mean, if Rick's throwing in £5, I have to urge all 215 of you and the thousands that are going to watch this afterwards to go and watch and subscribe to Rick the Spud's YouTube channel. And I wouldn't say that just because he's paid me a £5, although thanks, mate. Yeah. I'm saying it because his stuff's brilliant. And my favorite video of his, well, his Petrolhead Tour videos are brilliant, especially as I haven't been on one for a while now. So they kind of feed some of that hunger. But his BMW 10 things, is it 10 things he loves about his BMW M3, or he's done a couple on the M3. They're all good, but the main M3 video is absolutely fantastic. So yeah, so make sure you do head over and make it worthwhile. Make his £5 well spent, because then he'll come back when I do another live and spend £10. But anyway, I hope you're well, Rick, and thank you very much for that. Honestly, you didn't need to do that at all. But other people are welcome to. No, it was a joke. It's a joke. Be a fund. On that subject, though, I think the last time I did a live, I talked about this. I think the last time I did a live on YouTube was probably 2 years ago or something, back in the C19 days. Wait, what's that? What's COVID? Huh? COVID? Anyone know? No, we've forgotten about it completely. Absolutely forgotten about it. But back then, in those days, when I did do one, I discovered very quickly that YouTube, I think they take about 65% of whatever you see up there, which is just, I mean, I shouldn't say it too loud, should I? I don't approve of it. I think that's not very fair, YouTube. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Don't want to get completely demonetized. What's going on? Let's look at these questions. Okay. Will you review then? Oh, from Delta Dubai 03. How's it going, buddy? Long-term supporter. I am seeing some awesome names pop up here that I'm very familiar with, and I've seen commenting on the channel for many, many years. And you're most certainly one of them. Oh, where's that question going? You've just put two. I think you said, oh, here we go. Will you review the new 7 Series / i7? Yes, I will, for sure. I don't think I'm top of anyone's list to get invited to the launch of the 7 Series. Certainly not an international launch, and certainly not. I haven't heard anything about the UK launch. I think it's happening in January, which is ironic, really, because I've myself purchased, including that used one recently, I think 5 or 6 7 Series. I was a chauffeur for nearly 10 years. You would think that I would be, and anything that I do on my previous 7 Series went so well on the channel. Anything I do with Audi's A8 or S8s do really well on the channel. But I don't get invited to those sort of launches, which is a shame. Same with Audi as well, actually. It's really sad because they did the facelifted S8 launch. I think they did an international and a UK one. A load of people went out. I mean, their videos, you know, all these magazines, their YouTube channels are just awful. Most of them, not all of them, but I mean, they are the views they get. You wonder where they brought these subs from, because you look, they've all got like 1 million subs and their videos get like 5K views. So it's a bit of a mystery to me. But anyway, then I got an S8, I don't know, a couple of months after the launch, and that video's done like 250,000 views. So I do love big luxury barges. I'm very familiar with them. That was my industry, that especially the 7 Series. I mean, the 7 Series was my life. It was literally my life for 10 years. So I am looking forward to trying it, because I think it's horrifically ugly. I think it's awful. I think it's just, they couldn't have got that. They couldn't have designed the 7 any worse, in my opinion. I think it's horrible. Back end maybe just about acceptable. But the problem is, as soon as you can see any of the side of the car and those awful wheels and tire combination that don't fit any, it just looks dreadful. It really does. I'm sorry to say it. It's just, yeah. So hopefully it's going to drive exceptionally well, but I think it'll be a bit removed, because I think the when they went to the what was mine? Oh, G11? I can't remember. G12 maybe. When they went to the last generation, it became less of a driver's car, because that was the problem with the 7. It was always a brilliant driver's car, always felt like a BMW, which is great for the driver, but let's face it, most of them are chauffeuring cars. And so the S-Class was always king in that. Then they made it less of a driver's car with the last generation, the whatever it is. I should know my codes, but I can't remember. So let's say 2016 to 2021. But they made that much more of a luxury car for the rear seat passengers. Whereas the new one, they've just gone completely overboard. I mean, it's a marketing machine, isn't it? That big stupid screen. Is anyone ever going to use that? No. The horrible materials that these manufacturers are using to tick the vegan and the whatever box. I mean, it's just all a load of, I just don't even want to go there. It's just pathetic. But again, they have to do it to make certain people happy. There's nothing better than leather to sit on. There's a reason that leather is a premium material for a car seat or any kind of seat. Your sofa, it's really good. It's breathable. It works. It smells good. Yeah, putting all this crap that they put in them today to satisfy whoever, it's just, anyway. But yeah, that's just me. Right, let's move on. So I will hopefully be driving a new 7, but maybe after saying all that, maybe I won't. But I'm sure I'll get one out of Tony Lewis if BMW UK or someone doesn't lend me one at some point. But I'm not in a massive rush to. I'm just not. It doesn't. I think the iX. I think the iX is more of an impressive car than the new 7. Just because I actually think the iX looks better, because the iX is so alien. It's anyway. Oh, it's $10 has just come through. Unfortunately, I have to interrupt this conversation and focus straight on the money. No, but good question. 7 Series will be coming early next year to the channel at some point. be prepared for a very honest video. But I get paid by BMW, so I can't be that honest. Oh no. Oh, they pay me a fortune. Oh, damn. What am I going to do? Anyway. Fast Car Productions. Thanks for making some epic videos over the years, Joe. Your videos inspired me into working hard and getting into my very own M140i. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's lovely to read that. Really is. I've been there and I've done that sort of nearly 10 years ago. Exactly that, in the sense that, you know, I watched the likes of Chris Harris and others online, and they inspired me to go out and buy my first M135i, which then kickstarted the channel and what I do today. So I know how it feels to sort of, let's say, be inspired. That's really nice to hear. And as I've always said, I am who I am and I do what I do because of you lot. And that's it really. That's the basics of it. And I'm very grateful that people watch my content and continue to watch it. And there are some long-term, or a lot of long-termers that watch my stuff, because I know how fickle the world is today, and I do it myself. I'll watch, I'll be subscribed to someone for 10 years and then just stop watching their content, and then I won't ever revisit it. And I don't know why. Sometimes or then I will, and I think, why did I stop watching? So I really appreciate the fact that, I consistently get good views and good traction, and a lot of core strong audience. So thank you very much. I don't know what your name is, Fast Car Productions, but thank you so much for that. And enjoy your M140i. There's a lot of M140i chat coming up now. I'm going to be straight on Auto Trader after this, after my couple of beers. I'll be like, ooh, Lou, look what I brought. Oh, right. Yeah, that was meant to go towards the new house. She'll be watching this as well. That was a joke. That was obviously a joke. Obviously. Right, what's going on? Kevin McGee. Hi Joe, M-car prices. As a fellow M135i, then M2C owners, have I lost a plot? In my opinion, new prices M no longer feel balance costs versus fun. Yeah, I did touch on this a bit earlier on. I think, firstly, and I'm not defending BMW at all here. I think, firstly, we've got to look at the bigger picture and how expensive cars have become in general. Someone was talking to me online the other day. I think now the Fiesta's stopped being made. The cheapest Ford you can buy is 27 grand or something. And that's a base Puma. And then the Focus is 28 grand or something. So a base Focus is £30,000. Whereas, 10 years ago, an M135i was £30,000. And I think now, especially, I reckon in the past 2 years, prices have gone up between 15 and 20% in general, especially BMWs, if not more for BMWs, because BMW always expect to get a discount, or in BMW's talk, a dealer contribution. And that was always the case. Sometimes small, sometimes big. 7 Series, there's 25 grand straight away. Before you even walk in the showroom, there, Mr. Achilles, 25 grand, and here's another 2 grand, and another couple. Oh, what, you might want it, there's another 5 grand. They were throwing them out the door. Even cars like the M5 Comp, 30. I know people that were getting 30 grand off new M5 Comps. Boom, £30,000. So this 75 grand car was really, or what were they? No, they weren't ever 75 grand, were they? The 100 grand car was 70 grand, like straight away. And that used to annoy me, because people would go, oh, why'd you buy a new one? You can get used, you can buy a 1-year-old one for 70. It's like, yeah, but a new one's 70 grand. You just haven't been into a dealership. And so even like cars that were in demand, like the M2 Comp, even those were getting at some point 5, 6, 7, 8 grand off. And when you're only talking, what was that, 50 grand? So it was almost a 40 grand car. And you think now, wow, an M2 Comp, brand new for 40 grand. I mean, it's a bargain of the century. But so take away that discount. That discount's gone now, really has. I mean, I'm sure there's a little bit of movement. Obviously, the likes of Tony Lewis and whoever that can and are allowed to play around, but all of that's being tightened from BMW UK. So the discounts are far and few between, understandably, because there's higher demand and there's not enough cars to sell. So why are they going to discount cars that they can't even sell? So you've got all of that. So you've got that sort of side of it. Let's say 10-15% of inflation has just been from lack of discount alone with BMW. Then you've got to add in another 10% of inflation. So you're suddenly stuck with 20-25% of a price increase. But I think I did say it early on, cars like the new M2, 61.5 grand. At least that's what it was when they announced it a couple of months ago. It's probably gone up a little bit since then. But let's say 62 grand. That car comes with M seats, head-up display, Harman Kardon, I think, ZF8 speed also as standard. It comes with the S58. It comes with the M3 and M4's brakes and suspension. It comes with the M3 and M4's chassis pretty much underneath, and a slightly shorter wheelbase, and wheels and tires. And it's so much of a car. And I'm not putting in a sales pitch here, but I think 60 grand for something with 450 horsepower and all of the gadgets that you need. Yeah, the carbon buckets for me are almost a must have, but if you didn't have them, you're still getting all that performance of the car. It's a lot of money, but actually, when you look at it on reflection, you think, okay, well, if you spec'd up an M2 comp, didn't get any discount, you put every pack on it, that was 55, 56, 57 grand with DCT. It's actually only a couple of grand difference. And you're still getting more car, really, with the new one. Don't get me wrong, I still prefer the F87. I think it looks prettier. It's a bit more lively, got a bit more soul and character. But unfortunately, that's just the nature of new cars. They've just lost a lot of that. So I really, there's no denying that cars are becoming silly expensive. Finance and inflation and finance interest rates are pushing finance through there's a finance as well, like once upon a time an M car was what, 2.9%, maybe 3.9, whatever, 4.9 at max at a push. Now they're all like 7.9, 8 point. They're crazy. So when you combine all of those things together, you're basically paying twice the monthly payments that you used to pay, which just seems insanity. But actually, when you strip it all away and you look at that retail price and what you get as standard, I still think the M2 is not a good value car. It's a decent value car for what it is, for the performance and the car you get. I mean, especially comparing it to cars like that TTRS Iconic Edition. Sorry, did I just bring that car back up again? I can't believe that car. 90 grand. Oh, 90 grand. Wow. And that's got 400 horsepower for 90 grand. So there you go. Anyway, we've had another donation. I'm not even going to try and... Oh, no, I can't. Fake Karadumu TV. Fake Kara Duhumu TV. Hi Joe, opinion. Sorry if I can't. I'm slightly dyslexic and everything's a little bit small. Even though I've got a big screen, I've got blurry vision from a beer and a half. Hi Joe, your opinion: RS4 fully spec'd versus competition plus. Okay, so your Euros. So you're guessing you're abroad. So yeah, because we only get the competition in the UK. Competition plus is, I think, competition plus is with the seats and 100% the competition, 100%. In fact, on the launch, when I went and drove that car, whenever it was 3 or 4 months ago, what a brilliant piece of kit. Firstly, I mean, it's the RS4 that they should have. It's like that with everything, isn't it? It's like when BMW bring out the M3 CS. It's like, oh my god, that's so much better than the original car. But it's their tweaks but the RS4 competition, the suspension, it's down to suspension and ride quality for me. It's so much better than the stock car, even in Vorsprung. Doesn't matter with all the magnetic ride, but doesn't matter. The competition is so much better. For me, it would be that every day of the week. I think that's a brilliant car. It really is. And the seats, the carbon buckets, okay, they're no better than the BMW ones, but they're they're as good, and they also give you a good driving position, a better driving position. You can sit lower if you've got a lanky frame like me. So for me, RS4 competition 100%. Also residuals. The residuals on the competition are surely going to be better down the track. There's no argument. There's the only thing that the only thing is, I'm guessing you can't get a pan roof from the competition. So if you are running it as a family car and you've got kids in the back and stuff, the current RS6 that I've got at the moment is amazing. I love it. I've really fallen for it, actually. And I can't wait to sort of do my finished video on that car, because I don't think anything can touch the RS6 for what I've been using it for. I think even the M3 Touring is going to be brilliant, but it's not an RS6. But the RS6 that I've got, it's a lovely spec, but it doesn't have a pan roof. And during the winter months on a dreary day, it's really dark and dingy in the cabin in the front. But if you're in the back, it's depressing. So that's the only problem. I think you really do need a roof on these big estate cars, in my opinion, although performance-wise, it's the worst place to have extra weight. But it's kind of a, you know, are you going to be tracking your RS4 or your RS6? Probably not. It's worth that sort of penalty for me. RS4 competition, please, and send me a picture when you've got it. Alkesh Patel, will they do an M8 CS? Good question. I'm sure they plan. I reckon when they initially planned the 8 Series, when did they start planning that? Probably 2014, 15. I reckon they would have definitely forecast bringing out a CS or a CSL in the 8 Series for sure. It would have been in their workings and in their ideas, because back then, you know, nearly 10 years ago, there was the world hadn't gone mad around EVs. The government weren't cashing in around EVs, and I think that manufacturers like M was still elaborate and thinking up all these. So I think it would have definitely been on the drawing board, but the way the world changed towards the time that car was launched, and the fact that I'm sure 8 Series sales, M8 sales are not that great, they probably just quashed that idea. But I don't know. This is off my thinking. You're probably now going to tell me that they have just announced it or something. But that's my theory behind it. Why do an M8 CS when they can do an M3 CS? Yeah, I just think, can you imagine how expensive an M8 CS would be? Like 200 grand or something. Is anyone going to buy that? Maybe a few people. But yeah, it's not. I can't see that happening. Can't see that happening at all. Let's have a look. Richard Nobes, hey, how's it going, Rick? Thanks again to you. We just had Jack on earlier on. Thanks to you for coming to Goodwood the other week. And also, yeah, you are the winner of that Next Base dash cam, which is really cool. If you could choose one car to own on sale now, apart from the GT3 Touring, which one would it be? P.S. Thanks for the laps at Goodwood. Apart from the GT3 Touring, GT3 non-touring, the one with the wing. If you could choose one car to own on sale now, I mean, if it wasn't touring, I know it's going to sound really boring. It would probably be the GT3 RS that I haven't driven, but everyone I know that has driven it says it's brilliant, and of course it's going to be brilliant. So probably that. But if that's just me being a bit too boring, I was then going to say a GT4 RS, but I can't just stick to the whole. I'll tell you, the M4 CSL is a brilliant car. That's a really, really good car. M5 CS, did you say it has to be new? If you could choose one car to own on sale now, you can't get the M5 CS anymore. And you can't get the M4 CSL. I don't know. I'll come back to you on that. I need to have a think. Let's see if I can multitask, crack on with the questions, and then get back to you. I'll take it easy, Aaron. He's off to spend some time with the little one. Enjoy. Happy New Year, mate. Thanks for tuning in, and look forward to watching your content next year. Right, let's have a look. So, ZZ, Amira as last of its kind, one to buy and keep. I'd wait and see if Lotus bring out the model end of production if not in a rush. Now, this is very interesting because if you were here half an hour ago, I mentioned that I went down to the museum to pick up my M3, which Tim and Tom and Brad have very kindly been looking after. They got it detailed as well, so it's very happy at the moment. And whilst I was in there, Tim had his beautiful yellow Emira, which I think he's only had for a couple of weeks. Had grime all down the side of it. I thought it looked wicked. I love cars that are clearly brand new. I mean, I haven't seen any Emiras out because they are brand new, and it was absolutely covered in winter grime, and I think that's just brilliant. The problem with the Emira, and I knew it was the case, and I watched Harry's garage. I think Harry Metcalf's films, videos are some of the best on the internet. I didn't mention him earlier on, but it's like the godfather. And he's obviously just picked up his Emira and done this video series, which is just brilliant. He's got so many views on it and stuff. And he talks about, the only thing with Harry is I think sometimes he's very honest, but I think sometimes he holds things back a little bit. And I could see straight away that he wasn't comfortable in his seat. And he mentioned something, and then he said, "Oh, actually, they're really good." And they're not. The seats in the Emira are rubbish. Well, at least the ones that were in Tim's car. They are so bad. And the driving position, I know I bang on about it. I feel like I'm filming one of my videos now. The driving position, honestly, that's me in the driver's seat with the seat down as low as possible. It's horrendous, the driving position. It's not designed for lanky people like me. It's not. And that's a real... The interior, the gear, it all felt really nice. And, you know, it's a cute little car. I'm sure it's loads of fun. But the fact that the cabin is so tiny and cramped is really frustrating, because that's what Lotus's issues have always been, as far as I'm concerned, is I can't, or I've never been able to fit in a Lotus properly. And unfortunately, the Emira is exactly the same. It's the same problem. And how they've got that so wrong, I don't know. And it is frustrating. Hopefully they'll bring out a proper bucket seat option at one point. But that'll obviously turn it into more of a hardcore version. But yeah, it's not just the driving position. I'm not talking about just the height and the fact that I'd have to drive it like that, because I can get around that because I'm used to it in some cars. It's not just that, and the fact I couldn't ever track it with a helmet on because I wouldn't physically fit in the cabin. It's where the steering wheel is. I have the same problem in the Alpine. I think the Alpines are brilliant cars, but my legs feel like they're sort of around the stick. The whole, my legs don't fit properly in the footwell. The steering column, my knees bash on the dashboard, and it's the same problems in the Emira. It's a real shame. I sat in it and literally my heart sunk, because I was very excited about that car, and I just thought, oh, they haven't got this right. Which doesn't surprise me, because, no offense, Lotus are brilliant. They've always made such brilliant drivers' cars, lightweight. You know, they're all about driving, no frills. And this car they've kind of packaged together really well. But if you're over 5'10", even 5'11", let's say 6 foot, it's not good. That's my opinion. Anyway, on to the next question. We've had another donation. Thank you very much. I'll drink to that. I've come prepared, because what time is it now? 7 o'clock. So we've got half an hour. I've actually got a glass of wine just ready for me in case I get through my second beer. I'm a bit slow tonight, which is probably a good thing, because I'm not slurring my words, and I'm probably making a little bit more sense than I would do. Okay, so here we go. Ashcan, thank you very much for your £5. Really appreciate it. Joe, what do you think about a used Audi Q8 Vorsprung for 60 grand, and your experience with the Q8 overall, or should I save up and go for the SQ8? Now, I'm not sure which engine that is. I'm guessing it's the 3-litre TDI, maybe. Or does the Vorsprung only come with one engine spec these days? I'm not sure. Firstly, I really like the Q8. I do. I think the wait a second, the Q8. Now I'm confused because Q8 each, they've just looked, so this would be used, so it would be the Q8 as we know it, because Audi in great Audi, there you go, 50 TDI, brilliant. Audi in brilliant Audi fashion have completely changed names again. I mean, their numbering system was already confusing enough, the 50 TDI, which most people think, is that a 5 litre? No, it's not, unfortunately. Or you see like a 30 TFSI on the back of an A1, you're like, oh wow, that A1's got a 3 litre in it. No, it's got about 4 horsepower. So that was bad, and now they've changed it again to fit in with all. I think the new e-tron's going to be called the Q8 e-tron or something, isn't it? Even numbers are going to be e-tron, odd numbers are going to be combustion engine. So basically, even numbers will be boring, odd numbers will be fun. But the Q8 as we know it now, brilliant car. I really like it. I remember the launch, I think 2018, or was it 2019? 2019. I fondly remember the launch that Audi did in the UK, and I really like that car from the off. Normally, I'm not a fan of those sort of cars. Let's use BMW for an example. I know I'm bad-mouthing BMW again. They pay me all of that money. How could I be doing this? BMW Q4, X4, and the X6, in my opinion, pointless cars. Do they drive any better than the X3 and the X5? Maybe a little bit, but that doesn't equate to the UK, because that little bit of extra driving ability usually means slightly stiffer spring rates, which usually means slightly more fillings falling out and whatever. Less practical and more expensive. I don't understand. Whereas Audi, and I have to give it to them, I think Audi's, especially the Q8, is definitely a massive step on from the Q7 in terms of driving dynamics, and also the way it looks. I mean, the X4 and the X6 look awful. To me, they look like a dog taking a poo. I mean, their back ends are just horrible. Whereas the Q8 looks better than the Q7. I think the Q7 is quite a looker. So I think, anyway, I've really gone off subject here, but I would personally, it's hard to say really, because the 50 TDI, I think, is the high pressure 3 litre TDI engine, or the high output one, which is a brilliant engine. And that 3 litre TDI from Audi, or whether you go for the 3 litre 30D for those engines are the engines that should be in cars like the Q7 and Q8, because they've got loads of torque. They don't make any fuss out of anything, and they'll throw the car down the road, in any scenario, whether you're full up with passengers or not. And I think they make so much sense. The SQ8, that gets complicated, because I think the SQ8 was a diesel, which was a V8 diesel, which was fast and powerful, but thirsty. I mean, that would struggle to do 30 miles to the gallon. The fuel bills on an SQ8, if it's a diesel one, would be horrific in this day and age. I would personally stick with the Q8, especially the Vorsprung. Don't overspend. I think it's a really nice car. It's going to look the same as an SQ8, isn't it? I think a Vorsprung looks very similar to an SQ8 anyway. So that's what I would stick with that. That's a really nice car, actually. I think, yeah, I really like. I love the RSQ8 as well, and they don't look too dissimilar. So yeah, nice. I've just seen Zizi pop up saying that you're 6'3". Well, yeah, go and try one. But I mean, I think Tim, or I was talking to Tim Schmee about his, and he was just saying that he is disappointed with the seats. They're too narrow. They don't support you very well, and that's him. Tim's 5'11" on a good day, probably. Yeah, they're just. It's a shame. It's a shame, because I wanted to love the Emira, and like I said, within 5 seconds, I was like, okay. Really nice for some people, but yeah, just not great for me. We've had another £5 come in. Thank you so much. Really appreciate these donations. You don't need to. I am trying to read as many questions as I can, but I'm also trying not to gloss over and rush these questions, trying to give some kind of detailed answer. Bibendum's still up there, standing, balancing on my head. Amazing. Done such a good job of staying up there. Edwin Toms has said, "Hey Joe, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you, mate. Looking to upgrade from my manual 3-door M140i, M2 versus M2 comp versus M4 comp. Which do I go for? Is the M2 comp worth the extra 8K?" Ooh, now that is a question that I do get asked regularly. It's very hard to say. It's very hard to. I mean, firstly, what are you using it for? The M140i is such a good car. Unfortunately, the B58, which is in none of the cars that you're looking at getting, is the sweet spot engine if you're using your car as a daily. None of the N55 and the M2 and the S55 are never going to compete or compare to the B58 as an overall product. And that's unfortunately almost a fact, in the sense that the N55 is brilliant, so much character, sounds great out the box, but it has its shortfalls, and the S55 is so thirsty. I mean, it is just, I'm not missing, my M2 has been locked away in storage for about the past 6 weeks, and I'm not missing it because of running costs and the fact that every trip, it's like, oh, let's take the M2 out for a drive. Oh, first stop, petrol station, tiny tank, very thirsty, and then on we go. But I think the M2 comp's definitely worth the extra 8K. I mean, I just think as a just down to things like the seats in the normal M2, they're basically the same as what was in the M140i, and I think the problem you're going to have, you're going to want to get out, you're going to want to get in your new car, and you're going to want it to feel very, or not very, it's not going to feel very different because the interiors are so similar across all 3 cars, all 4 cars. But the M2 comp comes with the nicer seats. The M4 comp comes with even nicer seats in proper leather. I think the M4 comp is the best value out of all of those. Yeah, actually, I'll be tempted M4 comp. Actually, if it's a similar sort of money for a similar sort of mileage to an M2 comp, then go with the M4 comp, because I think they're really good value at the moment. And there's a lot you can do. Take it down. You know, if you want to do, if you're thinking about tracking, or you can turn it into an M4 CS very easily. But the M4 comp comes with those lovely merino leather semi buckets. You can't really call them buckets nowadays because of the new buckets, but I guess with the holes in it, they just feel better. They support you better. They look better. And also the interior on the M4 comp, you've got the option of the extended leather, and even if you don't have the extended leather, the dashboard is slightly different to the smaller cars. So that's probably where although I love the M2 comp, if you can get an M4 comp for similar sort of money, similar mileage, etc., then that's the one to go for, I guess. But yeah, the OG M2 is brilliant, but it's definitely worth, if, like I said, if you want to actually feel like you've stepped up, you know, or you've upgraded to, or you've changed cars, you need to go M2 comp or M4 comp, in my opinion. I've just zoned in on this one. JN Jolly, hi Joe, thoughts on the upcoming M5 Touring? See, that's news to me. I don't know about an M5 Touring. I don't know about M5 Touring, but if there is one coming, then great. I mean, brilliant. I'm sure it's going to have the new S68 that I experienced recently in that rather challenging looking X7 M60i, another confusing name. M60i? Wait, so that's got the V12 in it? No. Oh, okay. Right. 6 litre? No. Oh, right, okay. Well, it's got the 4.4 litre in it, yeah. So what relevance? Don't ask. Okay, I won't. Yeah. But yeah, I think the M5 Touring, it's going to have that engine. It's probably going to have the hybrid units in there. It's going to weigh a lot. I mean, it's going to weigh as much as a London bus, as like the C63 that's just come out. They're all going to weigh so much because masses of weight, carting around huge amounts of weight, is saving the planet and the environment. That's the way we're going to do it, boys and girls. We're going to save the world by driving around in 4-ton EVs because it's so clean and renewable. And look at my beautiful seats. I have a sweaty bum, but I'm sitting on veganized wood that's not wood, that is special. Oh yes, and it's all yours for £200,000. Lucky you. Anyway, getting carried away. Sorry. I thought I was like in a BMW marketing campaign, and I just completely lost my mind for a second. At least I find myself funny. I can't take life too seriously. Another donation from Musa Minguni. I hope I pronounced that right. I probably haven't, so apologies. Joe, is it really the end? Will we ever see M140? Never, mate. Never, never, never. No, definitely is the end, unfortunately. You look in your profile picture probably a lot younger than I am. So maybe you will see the return of the combustion engine when everyone admits that cobalt mining and child labor and everything else is not the direction that we need to be going in. But cars like the M140i, I really think, blast of the past, crazy little things that are still just a head scratcher to this day. Just so discreet and so bizarre. These tiny little 1 Series. You see an F21 today, and they look so small compared to the big F40s, and then you think, wait, and they managed to squeeze a 3-litre in that. I mean, it's just, it's a shame, and they can't, because of the layout of the current 1 Series, they can't squeeze a B58 into one, or they can't. It's the wrong way around, wrong layout. So we'll never see a B58 in the current 1 Series, which is a shame, I guess. But it just wouldn't have the character either. It's a front wheel drive setup. It's never going to have that character. Right. So we've got about 15-20 minutes. Let's have another swig of this. Let's try and find some questions. From Neith Middle Dish. Oh man, how seriously? I can hardly see these names, and I'm so bad at pronouncing. Nteh. Nitish? I don't know. I'm sorry. But anyway, Joe, are you ever going to get an exotic car in the near future? I'm not, because I can't afford one. It's plain and simple, really. YouTube and everything does well, earns me a living, but I'm not. I don't have loads of money, and I don't have a secret funding person that funds most of my cars that I put on my channels. And I'm not referring to Tim, by the way. I don't have the funds, number one, and number two, they don't appeal to me. I don't. There's nothing apart from a GT3 is, to me, is the most exotic, best thing you could buy. That's it for me. That's the ceiling of cars. Anything above that, why? All these crazy things that float around Mayfair. I mean, that's just that says it in a nutshell. I don't want to be one of those people that drives my hypercar around Mayfair. I mean, it's like, do you know what the equivalent of a hypercar around Mayfair? When I see all these people go, oh look, we've just seen another Koenigsegg and it's going down Park Lane at 70 miles an hour. Seeing these cars in Mayfair is the same as seeing some poor, mingy old lions that have been tied up in a tiny zoo somewhere, and you're just like, poor little buggers, like, let's get them out, let's free them. It's just like, who cares about these stupid it does nothing for me. Yes, if I'm walking around Mayfair, I'll be that person and take a picture of me, like, oh, Ford GT, and mate, but what's the point? What is the point? It's just, honestly, it's all a willy sort of measuring exercise, and if you're in Mayfair, there's always going to be someone else that's got a bigger willy than you. So it's just, to me, that's no, just the whole image of, for me, the perfect car is something like a GT3 or my M3. there's not. When I went to pick my M3 up from Tim's museum earlier on, he's got all of his cars there. No offense to Tim, he's got some amazing cars, and I'm very lucky that I've driven a lot of them. But they don't appeal. There's one or two in there that appeal to me, but it really, honestly speaking, which one would you like to take away tonight, Joe, and drive home? I'll take my M3. Why? Because it's going to be reliable. It's really fast. It's really comfortable. It does everything. It's practical. That to me is a brilliant car in every scenario, and it's fun to drive. Everything else, it's just excessive. But if I won the lottery tomorrow, which I don't play, then I would probably have a couple of silly cars in my collection. But I don't aspire. That's a GT3 I aspire to owning. I do. A GT3, if Porsche would ever sell me one at list, then I would find a way of financing it. But I'm not going to pay 250 grand for one that's 6 months old. I'm not doing that. I think they are worth that, clearly, but I'm not spending 100 grand over odds. Right, next question. Wow. Wow, there's so many questions. Okay. Which blue color would you suggest for a 330i? Portimao blue, because it's the best. No, I mean, all good. To talk it, I mean, blues are definitely flavor of the year at the moment, aren't they? I think white cars are coming back in fashion. And blue cars. There's some great blues. The RS6 that I've got at the moment is. Oh, Lou's going to hate me because I can't remember the name of the blue. Oh, sorry, Lou, if you're watching. It's something blue, but it's really cool. BMW do a lot of cool blues. Porsche do some. Blues are. I do like blue cars. And in terms of BMW, I really like Portimao blue, obviously, because my M3 was Portimao blue, my rear-wheel drive. What's the one you've got to be careful about, though? Tanzanite blue. Tanzanite blue is very similar to that Michelin bottle in the background. Lovely color, looks great in a showroom, looks dreadful in 4 days' time when it's been out on a windy drive because the wind has scratched it. Tanzanite blue is really, really delicate. So, yeah, go for a lighter blue than a darker blue. My advice. Right, onto the wine. Oh, there's lots of blues coming up here. Yeah, Sepang blue, lovely, voodoo. But these are all individual. So I think if you're going for a 330i, I don't know what's on the configurator at the moment, but I'm guessing Portimao blue is there. Tanzanite blue might be. I mean, obviously individuals. There's some beautiful blues over the years, but I don't think you'd be going down the individual route. But I might be wrong. From Andre. Hey, Andre, how's it going, mate? Andre Garage there, another YouTube channel, although most of his stuff's in Portuguese. But yeah, thanks. Absolute legend. Looked after me when I was in Porto about a month ago, 6 weeks ago. And incredible driver as well. Pretty crazy. I'm sure he won't mind me saying. Have I ever tried the Huracan Performante? I haven't. I don't fit very well in any of the Huracans. I really struggle. The driving position's really bad. So I would struggle to fit in it properly. I'm very much like that. But I've heard good things about it. I've heard good things about the Performante. That's the thing with Lambos. I mean, I guess they get a bit of a rap for being show off. I mean, they are. People that buy most Lamborghinis are like, look at me and look how much money I've got, or how much money I haven't got, and I've financed this and I actually live in the car as well. But I think the Performante and even the STO, they're meant to be good drivers' cars. So I don't know. I would like to try one day. But yeah, I don't know, mate. My short answer to that. Will Street, Joe, have you had a date for your M3 touring yet? Well. I have. So the the problem I have here is, like I've joked about a lot in this live so far, is people do genuinely think that I am on some kind of special BMW list, and that I'm literally like, oh, I'm on an M3 Touring. And it's like, oh, hello, Mr. BMW. Yep, it's Joe here. Yep, Joe Achilles. Yep. I want an M3 Touring, and I want it tomorrow. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Yep. Forget about everyone else. I'm top of the list. Yep. What? Oh, behind Go Collector. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Well, obviously. But yes, second on the list. Thank you very much. Cheers. Bye. Unfortunately, that's not the case. And when I order my cars through Tony, those are processed to BMW. They don't have my name on it. They have a spec and a reference number, so no one knows which one's mine and which. Anyway, why I'm saying all this is because I know a lot of the early allocation cars have got pushed back quite far in the year, and I was originally expecting mine to be here. I think Tony said March, April sort of time. We're hoping March because obviously that's when the new reg's come out. But he did contact me last week or the week before, I've lost track of time, saying that it's going to be a little bit earlier than that. And I feel guilty for that because, once again, I know that people are going to be like, oh, BMW have pushed you. They haven't. It's just complete coincidence. Also, we didn't change the spec. We removed a few things because Tony found out about like the roof. I actually changed to a Dravit grey roof because you can now with the Touring. I think stock they come two-tone, so you can get black roof and Dravit grey, for instance, panels. But you can also go Dravit grey roof, and so basically the whole car is color coordinated. And I thought, oh yeah, let's go with that. Even though the one I saw in the studio and a few that I've seen are like the two-tone with the black roof, I quite like that as well because obviously we're used to black roofs on M3s because they're carbon, but with the Touring they're not. But we're used to that two-tone. But then Tony investigated and thankfully came back to me and said, actually, I think that could if you don't go for the two-tone, it might push you back. So we didn't. It's going to be here. It's going to be here soon, much sooner than I thought. So I can't tell you. I don't know exactly when it's going to be here, but it's going to be here soon. So keep your eyes peeled for that. I can't wait for it in a way, but at the same time, M3 Touring is a funny one. Firstly, the press drives are all over the place. I don't think there's any embargoes. I know Drive Tribe were they got their obviously they got their the drive out. Ben Collins got that drive out at the Nürburgring, which was a paid video, by the way. That was paid. But of course they would get no grief about that. But it was a great video. I was out there around the same sort of time, which was even weirder. But so it's gonna. I mean, the thing with the Touring is I know the saloon very well. I've probably covered 25 to 30,000 miles in the saloon in rear-wheel drive or X-Drive format over the past 18 to 20 months or whatever it's been since they came out. The Touring is going to be the same as my X-Drive saloon, but not as good. That's a fact. It's 75 or 80 kilos heavier. The weight is higher up. It doesn't have a carbon roof. It's going to be an M3 saloon, but not as good. That's it. In terms of driving dynamics, there is no more science to it. And I know that BMW or BMW M say, oh, yeah, but our engineers have said that this and that and feels very similar. And I'm sure it does feel very similar. But the facts are it's heavier and the center of gravity is higher. Therefore, it's not going to be as good as the saloon. So I'm not excited about driving it in that aspect. I'm excited about driving it because of what it is, what it represents. It's cool. It's awesome. And even if it maintains 95%, which it will, about 95, I reckon, 95, 96% of the dynamics that the saloon has, it's going to be brilliant. And it's going to be better than what Audi and certainly Mercedes with their tank can replicate. So it's going to be a brilliant car. But it's not going to be. It's not going to like change my life. It's not going to be like, oh my god, this is the best thing I've ever driven, because that would be a lie. It's not as good as the saloon that I've just traded in, and the saloon, the X-Drive saloon. Realistically, I need to do a video about this, but realistically, the X-Drive saloon is not as good as the rear-wheel drive saloon, because that was actually a better car, and I've learnt that over time. Apart from this time of year where the X-Drive is very helpful, makes it a better package. The rear-wheel drive version is the better driver's car. It has a much better front axle, and yeah, most of the time you don't need X-Drive. Anyway, let's move on to the next question. Have another sip of red wine. Oh, been going an hour and a half. I should wrap this up soon, but let's keep going for a bit longer. Yeah, I always feel guilty about. Well, I haven't done one of these for ages. Lou's not very well at the moment. She's getting better. She's had a cold, and she's not been very well. She's downstairs. We didn't know what we're doing for dinner tonight, so I went out and got some nice, like gourmet pizzas, gourmet from the co-op, gourmet. Yes. But anyway, they were nice looking pizzas. I thought I'd come home with those, because literally, like, she can put hers in the oven whenever, and then I can put mine in the oven, and there's no complications, just in case this runs over a little bit, because Lou did say you're going to talk loads of rubbish and you're probably going to keep going all night long. She didn't say rubbish. She would never say that. But anyway, right. Let's AW8, Z4M Coupe or Z4 Alpina, and maybe some cash left. I still have my bike, by the way. So smoke around tidy 2011 E-Class Estate. Oh, I love a 2011 E-Class. Is that an M124? M1 2011. Really nice. Is it like a 280 CDI, maybe? Or 320 CDI? Oh, great cars. Really, really great cars. I love that era of Mercedes. Although the C-Class was not very good at that era. Anyway, but the E-Class was. I love the E-Class. Good question. I've not driven either, so I can't really answer that. And unfortunately, once again, lanky person problems. I don't fit in Z4s very well, and that's a real disappointment, because I did have my eye on a Z4M Coupe a couple of years ago, but I just don't fit in them. I can imagine of that sort of era, the Alpina is going to be a more comfortable, better sounding, maybe Grand Tourer. Whereas I've heard that the Z4M Coupe is, I haven't even driven one, but I've heard they're very firm, very choppy. Didn't they come originally with early run flats as well? I'm sure they've been swapped out now. But I mean, how cool is the Z4M Coupe? It really is cool. And it has the S54. I'm really bad with the codes, engine codes. It has the 3.2, doesn't it? The straight six, the M3 engine in it, which is brilliant. I would be tempted to go for the Z4M Coupe, because I think it's just such a cool car. There was a Z4M Coupe. No, there's Z4M Cab. Is that what it's called? On the Petrolhead Tours last year in Spain. And I had a real soft spot for it, until once again, like the Emira, I sat in it and I was like, oh, like, as you can imagine, in a cab, I mean, literally the top of the windscreen was hit. I think I was better off looking over the windscreen than trying to look under it. It was, but the coupe is better than that, obviously. I think the H point in that era of convertible cars, it's like, oh, let's strengthen the floor. But that's going to lift the seat right. It doesn't matter. Just honestly, just stick some beams in there. But now the seat position is like 5 inches high. It doesn't matter. Honestly, just shove them in there. No one will even notice. Oh, okay. Have you got any goggles? Does this come with goggles? Because I can't really see. Anyway, I'm getting carried away. Someone said I'm a wizard. Spaceman, you are a wizard on cars. I wish I was a wizard, but thank you. I'll take that. Hey, Peak Performance Reviews is in the house. How's it going, mate? I hope you're well. Let's have from Ziga Repas. Is a G82 M4 manual a modern collector's car? Ooh. Well, you know what's interesting about the G82 M4 manual? You know what's very interesting about that particular car? Very interesting. Well, firstly, we don't get it in the UK, so that makes it interesting. Secondly, it was 80,000 euros new or something in let's say Germany. So affordable for a car with that kind of performance. It's very similar to to that 3-litre CSL thing that's just come out. I say thing because I personally don't get it. I don't think it's very close to being amazing, but it's not. And I would get it if it was 250,000 euros, but it's not. It's 750,000 euros, and underneath it's an M4 CSL, and I can guarantee, just like I said earlier on about the M3 Touring, I can guarantee the M3 Touring is just like the saloon but worse, because it has to be. I can guarantee that the 3-litre CSL is just like the M4 CSL but worse. I can guarantee that, because it wouldn't have had the R&D and everything, all the little tiny details that the M4 CSL, that's only 130 grand or whatever it was, 160,000 euros. It's ironic, isn't it? Really, it's like, oh, but you do get the manual box. Okay, but and I mean, a manual box with a manual box in the M4 CSL, I couldn't actually think of anything worse, because the M4 CSL is so fast that the super quick ZF 8-speed gearbox struggles to get through the gears. So it kind of, I mean, yeah, they've sold all 50 of them, and it doesn't surprise me, because there's people with way more money than sense in the world today. And also, it will be a collector's item. It's an investment. But I just think, it's not. The homage from many years ago was miles sexier, miles prettier than the 3-litre CSL. So anyway, going back to that question, do I think that the M4 G82 non-competition manual is going to be a future classic? No, because I think only because the M2 has now got a manual, and that kind of ruined that, I think, in the sense that it was like, oh, is this going to be the last manual M car? No, the M2 is. So I don't think it will be. I think it'll be a car that might sit quite well price wise, especially when they phase out the manuals and the rear wheel drive only cars. That would be quite an acquired taste. You know, you look on it on used cars and be like, oh, M4 manual rear wheel drive. Forgot they did that. But I don't think it'll be a collector's. Maybe in many years, but way after I've left this planet. James Silman. Hi Joe, congrats on the year. Any chance of more local content, as in just you out cruising in the M3? Yeah, I should. You know, my biggest problem, and I think the problem is YouTube really values and rewards just straightforward thinking. I want to do a video about this year. I want to be really open, actually, and talk about what I've made on YouTube, what you make on YouTube, what certain videos make a lot more than others. And I want to talk about the reward. What's that saying? Anyway, basically, sometimes, most of the time, the less effort you put in, the more you get rewarded. And sometimes you put, and I think that's why, like, even someone like Chris Harris with Chris Harris on Cars, that almost worked but didn't quite. It was almost ahead of its time. But I think the reason that channel never really became a massive hit in terms of enough to fund Neil and Chris was because it was so good and so well shot that YouTube never rewarded that. They don't push that sort of content. Whereas very quick, snappy, bang, 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 couple of GoPros in, put it on. Oh God, no one's going to like this. Oh, I'm embarrassed to put this on the channel. Or, oh, I feel a bit, I don't know, not going to sit right next to my other videos. You put it online, you're like, it's done 100,000 views. And I think I need to be less. I think I guess the problem with your question and what I'm trying to say is, the more time I spend on YouTube, the prouder I become of my work and my videos, the higher I set the bar, which is not right, because it's nice to do something like the GT3 touring video, something like that. It was a massive exception. That cost me an arm and a leg. Let's just talk cost. That cost $4.5 grand, that video, just in expenses, plus my 11 days, including my editing days, and Patrick's 4 or 5 days that he came. I mean, and what have I got? One second. This is actually this. Here we go. I'll show you what I've made. What I made on that. What I've made to date on that GT3 touring video. So $4.5 grand that cost me, plus my 12 days of my time. Plus, and don't get me wrong, they weren't hardship days. I mean, oh, Joe, poor you. You had to take a GT3 touring to the best. No, I'm not expecting sympathy. I'm just saying my time. Let's just, anyway. What has that video made me to date? Okay, here we go. Make sure there's nothing that you can't see on here. Okay, so here we go. So that is what it's made me to date. £440. Okay, it's done nearly 77,000 views, which is pretty good. But £440. I've not made back 10% of what I spent to film that video. Now, that was never the idea of that video. I never thought, let's go and make some money. And I think that is my biggest downfall with YouTube and whatever. There's a lot of people out there just produce constant crap that unfortunately does well and gets rewarded by YouTube, and that's fair enough, because that's great. That's a business mind. That's how you're going to make most money on this platform. But if you're thinking up these silly ideas like taking the best car in the world to one of the best roads in the world, and you haven't got a sponsor, then forget it. You're going to lose loads of money. But all said and done, okay, that trip cost me $4 grand, but it was the best trip of my life in terms of like driving. I had so much fun. I've wringed a GT3 Touring's neck for 5 days in a row on the best road. I mean, it doesn't get any better. But I want to do a video talking about that, because I think a lot of people will be surprised what certain things. Everything costs a lot of money, and unfortunately, the days of good ad revenue on YouTube are gone. So I have got some GT85 up behind me, and they're not sponsoring this video, but they did sponsor the Goodwood Charity Track Day recently, and I'm hoping to work with them more next year. And just having brands, also Michelin. Obviously, I'm very open about all of my sponsor stuff, and they're always ticked sponsored, so it should come up with paid promotion at the top of the screen. I'm not secretive. Again, like a lot of other people, they don't tick these boxes and say that they're sponsored. And that's what annoys me, when people claim or accuse me of being paid by anything that I get paid for. You will see it clearly in wherever it is, on YouTube or on whether it's Instagram. And I try not to. I get offered a lot of stuff these days, mostly rubbish, but occasional good deals and good brands that I have some kind of organic connection with. And, I turn away 95% of it. But, because I don't want the channel submerged in sponsorship. I think it's just, sponsored by this, sponsored by that. Every Instagram story, sponsored. No, I don't want to see that, let alone you guys. But at the same time, you've got to stop and think, wait a second, how's he funding this? If YouTube aren't paying that well, which they're not, you've only got to pick up a copy of Evo magazine or something. One of my favorite, the first couple of pages, advert, 10 pages in, advert. It's all advertising. Of course it is. They've got to make money somewhere. And it's the same with us and YouTube. And And I think for me to do trips like the M3, like the GT3 touring, I've got to have made some money somewhere else to fund that trip, because otherwise it's never going to happen, because I physically could not afford for it to happen. But anyway, back to the questions. My wine is the clock is clicking. Yes, I've had a bit too much alcohol. The clock is ticking and the wine is deteriorating, but we'll take a couple more questions and then we'll call it a night. I really appreciate everyone's time as always. I think, yeah. Oh, there you go. So Andre from Portugal, 80,000 views. He makes 125 euros. So again, that's a great point. And this is why someone like Tim, and I'm sure he won't mind me saying this, he spends a lot of time in the US. Well, for two reasons: brilliant content out there. There's lots to film, crazy car collection stuff, but also the ad rate in the States is another level. So if you've got a big US audience, you make loads of money. Andre's got a Portugal, well, you know, he's very limited because of the language that he speaks. So I'm lucky in the sense that I'm English, so I've got a reasonably large US Australian audience, obviously, and you know, selfishly, unfortunately, or fortunately for me, the majority of the world understand and speak or English. If you're Portuguese or it's very difficult, and therefore the ad rates reflect that, because so that's horrendous. I mean, 8,000 views, 125 euros. I mean, there you go. That's worst case scenario. Again, so you see, wow, he's done 100,000 views. He must be earning a fortune. No, it's really not. It's not like it once was. Even 2 or 3 years ago, it was so good, and it's changed again. So, but anyway, I'm not moaning about it. I make a living out of it, and a decent living. But I'm certainly not ever going to be rich out of it, at least in the next 5-10 years. But at the same time, I do what I love, and doing what you love in life is amazing. It's something that for most people, the majority of the time, is unheard of and never going to happen. But for me, it has, and I've found this way to make money doing what I love, which is just awesome. And now I'm sitting here talking to an audience, drinking wine. I mean, the whole thing, it's still a bit of a dream reality in my head. It's really bizarre. But anyway, let's pay you back by answering some other questions that are probably going to go off on a crazy tangent and crash and burn. Anyway, okay, so Ahmed Vuraji, this is a good question and something I want to answer, because and Tim does come up in a lot of my conversations, because I've known Tim for a long time now. He's a good friend of mine, and I've got a lot, and I actually spent a lot of time with him today, and I've got a lot of time and respect for Tim. And you've asked, how do the likes of Tim Shmee150 get so many cars? Now, firstly, Tim's been in the game for a long time, the YouTube game. 2.5 million subs, I think. He's just about to, as in, I think the next couple of days, pass 1 billion views. Just 1 billion. I'm hopefully going to pass 50 million views in January, I think. Yeah, definitely some point in January, 50 million. Tim's about to pass 1 billion. 1 billion views. So, firstly, and the other thing Tim gets, people question, and I want to talk to Tim on a podcast about this at some point. It's been done before, but I think, firstly, there's only one Tim. Tim is and again, he won't mind me saying this, Tim is, I call him computer brain. He is a special person. There's only one Tim, and there will only ever be one Tim. He's got so much up here, it's unbelievable. And it never stops, ever stops. It's like the world's strongest computer that just keeps going on. He is so determined and focused on what he's doing, but he also has a massive love for the subject, the cars. He has this huge organic love for cars. I've never met someone who works so hard in any and I've worked in the fashion industry. I was a BT engineer when I was much, I've worked in sales when I was much young. I've worked in different industries. I've been around lots of different industries. I've been around a lot of hardworking people, hardworking individuals, companies, whatever. I've never met anyone like Tim that honestly works so hard to the point that when you're with him, he's never stopping. If you go out for dinner with him, he's got his laptop, he's probably editing, or he's working out his next brand deal or next car or his schedule. And long story short, with Tim produces his own money. Tim earns every single penny of what you see. So all of his cars, he openly says he doesn't outright own all of them. Some of them are finance, some of them he does own, but he works his arse off to get those cars. And I, once again, like I said earlier on, do I envy, or do I aspire to owning an exotic car? So, no, I don't. Do I envy or aspire to be like Tim? No, I don't at all, because I see how hard he works. Like, I appreciate sort of some downtime and normal time along with what I do on YouTube and these amazing trips that I go on, whereas Tim is so focused, and that's why he is so successful, but he's just so focused. So yeah, anyone that questions Tim and his his surname and his family and I know his dad and his mum I know his dad very well. In fact, his dad's got an M2 competition, and I helped him through a lot of that. We talk in emails. His dad's brilliant. Does his dad fund? No, not at all. That's just no. Tim is Tim, and Tim, love or hate him and his Shmee persona or pseudonym, stage name, YouTube name, you've got to take your hat off to him and just appreciate how well he's done, and the space. Everyone knows who Tim is. Everyone knows Shmee 150, and that says enough, surely, doesn't it? I mean, that's it, really, isn't it? It's like, why are we even talking about him? And I'm not suggesting that you just asked me a simple question. I'm not pointing the finger at you or anyone. I'm just saying, if we're all talking about Tim or anyone, well, we're talking about someone who's clearly made an impact on this space and in this world. So clearly he is who he is. And like I said, hats off to him. Do I envy him? No. No. Could I work as hard as him? No way. Not even for 3 days. I work hard. I work very hard. You can see how, this Porsche edit that I've just done for the last 2 days has killed me, but I don't work as hard as he does, and fair play to him. And and I'm just grateful to know him as a friend. He's a great guy, and obviously Tim is a different person to Shmee. Not radically different. They're still, similar in their own special ways, but yeah, he's a top lad. Anyway, on to the next question. I've just seen Ahmed's. It was Ahmed who asked that question. Yeah, I wasn't pointing the finger at you. I was just in my own way getting very passionate about, because I do. A lot of people ask me about Tim, and a lot of people have a very, even friends of mine still to this day are like, oh yes, well, it's okay. He gets it's his dad that fun. It's not his fucking dad. It's not. Like, it's seriously not. But they're mostly people that don't pull their finger out and work as hard as he does, so they can keep their theories and procrastinate. That's a word, isn't it? Did I just pull that one out? Yes. Or it's approaching 2 hours. Right, couple of questions. Rejoice Roan has said, start a podcast. That is the plan. I don't want to say much more than that, but I'm definitely starting a podcast as of January with a very good friend of mine, and I'll leave it at that. I'm not going to ruin it, but I am starting a podcast. We are starting a podcast. I'm not. We are together. Joint venture. It's going to be it's very exciting. I'm sure it's going to be great, and I'm really looking forward to it. We will have the occasional live show as well, but very much looking forward to doing a podcast, because I really enjoy, like Sam, Seen Through Glasses stuff. I enjoy podcasts. They're different to YouTube, in the sense that, you know, you can listen to them in your car, on a plane, or wherever, and or around the house, even when you're pottering around doing bits. I was going to say doing housework, but Lou might be listening. Should probably die of laughter if I said I was doing housework. So, but podcast definitely coming. Marcus C, are you a Scalextrics fan? I got some for Christmas. Absolutely. I haven't played it for ages, Marcus, but I grew up loving Scalextrics, and I still do. When I see, where did I see one? I saw one recently. Oh, at the museum. Yes. I don't know if that's a secret. Maybe it's not. Maybe it is. I think it's Scalextrics anyway. At least it's very similar. But yeah, really cool. Very, yeah, lots of good childhood memories. Fast Car Productions, my God, you're still going. Well, yeah, I mean, the numbers are still there, you know, people, there's still 250 odd people watching, so fair play. But I am going to wrap it up in a minute. I just don't want to end it quite yet. Okay, let's see if I can. Rick's still there. Parting shot. New name for the podcast: Big Helmets Club. Yes, that's not a bad name. Yes, yeah, Big Helmets. Nice, love it. Paul Marsh. Hey, Paul. See, Paul's another absolute long-term subscriber. Yeah, it feels like you've been. I'm sure you've been there since right at the beginning, Paul. I hope you're well. Merry Christmas. What's your thoughts on the new X3 M40D? Seems like a very complete package. I'm sure it is awesome. We did talk earlier on about the D versus I at the moment. I think the D is a better package in something like an X3 that's, you know, near on 2 tons. Problem is, when you factor in fuel prices at the moment that are 20% more for diesel, it kind of kills that efficiency gain. So you end up spending about the same. But yeah, for an X3, I think I personally would have the 40D in an X3. As much as the 40i is brilliant, I would have a 40D just because that extra torque would throw that package down the road very well. Oh, RS Jamie, hey, how's it going? I thought I saw your name earlier on. Maybe this is your first question. I don't know Tim's dad or family. Never have, even because Tim is the man, and I've always enjoyed his interactions with him. He is a person in his own right and an inspiration. There you go. That's it. Sums it up perfectly. And that's it. And like I said earlier on, I wasn't pointing the finger. It was a very valid point that Ahmed asked. But it is one that does get asked a lot, because I think people do scratch their heads about it and go, how is that possible? How is it? Trust me, it's like I used to work in the fashion industry. I was a chauffeur for many years as well, as many of you know. That was a hard-working job. I looked after a lot of big celebrities, very, very big, proper celebrities. And it's that whole, I want to be famous when I grow up. You work with them, you see the way they are treated, the lives they have, the sheltered lives that they have. They got all the money in the world, but they can't do normal things because they are constantly being judged, sheltered, accused of. It's a horrible. You don't want to be famous. It's just, it's a real shame. But you kind of see that through the YouTube, process, I think. And I talked about it quite openly at the recent Caffeine and Machine I Love You Man talk that we had, which was brilliant, really, really good night. And I just talked about that when you start off in YouTube, everyone loves you. Like the 1,000 subscribers that you have, they all love you. It's all positive, and it's great because they're there for you. They've discovered you. They can comment on something you're going to reply because you get 5 comments on a video or whatever. There's a very close connection between everyone. As you grow, that slowly gets pushed apart only because of time. There's only one of me, for instance. But once you get to a certain point, 10,000 subs, suddenly there's some haters. And then 50,000 subs, there's a group of hate. Not a lot, there's a group that are less than 0.1%. But you focus on those haters because you're like, well, why do they hate me? What have I changed? What have I done? And it just, and then the more you succeed, okay, thankfully the haters, I've blocked so many. I must have, honestly, I must have blocked 1,000 people on YouTube, and probably the same on Instagram, if not more, over the years. So maybe you sift some of them out that way, but you're always going to get people that hate your success or hate the fact that you're doing well, or that and there's nothing you can do about that. You know, there's really nothing you can just, I think, you know, it's just one of those it's just one of those, you know, one of those things in life that if you succeed, or you try and succeed, the majority of people like you lot encourage and appreciate and support that, which is great. But there's always some that want to pull you back down again, which is a shame. But it's just life. It's just life. Okay, so Edward Lee Furbank. Are you going to drive the new Honda CTR? One Nicky Hayden fan to another. Whoa, Nicky Hayden. Oh my God. Can we just take a moment to appreciate what a cool dude. I mean, Nicky Hayden, Nicky was probably the first man crush I had as a younger. I mean, I remember when he was, so when did he win? He won MotoGP 2006. I remember watching Nicky for the first time probably early 2000s, so 20 odd years ago. And I just remember, I just loved his accent. I loved the way he looked. I thought he was the coolest thing on the planet, because he, at the time, rode superbikes, then became, I mean, what a guy. What a guy. What a shame. But anyway, going back to the Honda CTR, I will hopefully try one. I think the only problem with the Hondas is that they're very small. I've heard, and looking at them, they seem very small. So yeah, not sure. I will try one, I'm sure, at some point. But yeah, I'm on a Honda subject. I'm actually trying the new Civic Type R in about a week, which is cool. Which is really, really cool. It's my first Honda press car, which is awesome. And I've always loved and appreciate the Type R. Never been the biggest fan of the past couple of generations. I need to FK8, I think. I need to brush up on my code language for Hondas. But the newest one looks the absolute bee's knees, and I'm sure it's going to be brilliant, because Honda have always made exciting and brilliant hot hatches. So yeah, very much looking forward to that, and looking forward to working with Honda more in the future, because I think they've always been a force to be reckoned with. And yeah, a bit like Genesis. I drove Genesis recently in Monaco for this. I was out there for I didn't put it on YouTube, so for those of you that are just YouTube only, I went out to Monaco with Michelin for a Gran Turismo final event. It was literally 2 or 3 weeks ago. Awesome event, absolutely incredible. James from Michelin took me out there. James was one of the sort of instigators, got involved, got this event going, and got Michelin behind it. And I mean, brilliant event, brilliant few days out in Monaco. And it was, late November. It was 23, 24 degrees every day. It was just the dream. I mean, Monaco is amazing at the best of times, but that time of year, I remember getting on the plane here, it was like 0 degrees, got there, wow, beautiful, beautiful day. And I tried the Genesis GV60, which is an EV. And you know me and my EVs. Well, it was actually really, really good. It was a compelling package. And I thought it was brilliant. It wasn't trying or pretending to be anything else than just a practical, cool, stylish little runaround. And the one we had was a Sport Plus or something. It was fast. It was very fast, as EVs tend to be, but it was really nice. It was a lovely, refreshing place to be, compared to a lot of the German stuff at the moment. It's becoming a little bit repetitive. They're relying too much on their marketing teams that are doing a very, very bad job in the majority of cases. Marketing teams, honestly. BMW's one. Wow. Oh, but they pay me. Oh, one sec. Oh, I'm really sorry about that. Anyway, Okay. Oh, we've had another 4. This is going to be the last question of the night because it has gone on for over 2 hours and it's been awesome. I've really enjoyed it. But at the same time, I did promise that I would spend some good time with Lou this week. And I've spent the past 2 days editing a video that will come on the channel the next Tuesday. So I need to, yeah, I don't want to take liberties. But I think we should do this more. I've just seen Fast Car Production saying I should do this more. And I love it. I do need to do this more. Maybe I should try and do one of these every month and actually schedule it. Be like, right, on this day of every month, I'm going to do another live stream because they're easy to do. I can talk a lot. I can answer some questions. Talking about that. So Andrew Nejad has donated £4.49. Thank you very much, mate. And I'm not purposely just picking the ones that are paid, but obviously when someone pays, I kind of do have to prioritize people. I know that's harsh, but it's reality. I have been answering a lot of non-paid questions because that's not the point of tonight. Hi, mate. Owned an M2 Comp, which I love, for a year. Do you think there's a better car going for the price point, e.g. Quadrifoglio? Not sure, thanks. Good question. The Giulia Quadrifoglio is a brilliant car. It really is. It's one of those cars that I've been lucky enough to probably drive 5 or 6 times now. And every time I drive one, like now, I'm sitting here thinking, like I don't miss it. But if I saw one, I'd be like, oh. If I was then given the keys to one for a few days, I would just be like, what have I been missing? Like, this is amazing. It's a brilliant car. The problem with the Quadrifoglio, and I don't care that owners will go, oh, no, that's not the case anymore. Bull. Can I swear? Anyway, they're not. They're not that reliable. They do have their issues. The interior is not that great. The fit and finish, it's a bit hit and miss. The facelifted ones are better, but it's still, the infotainment system's really not that great. So it does have its shortcomings. It's a beautiful looking car. I think it's one of the best looking cars out there. Certainly much better looking than my M3. I will accept that every day of the week. Like the Giulia in general, I saw the base, like whatever it was, 2-litre diesel, 2.2. I saw one earlier on. It was like, I don't know, 6-7 years old. I just thought, what a beautiful car. It's just such a beautiful, refined, it's Italian. It's beautiful. And the good thing with it is not just Italian for looks. It is a very, very good car. But would I, if someone said, here's a Giulia Quadrifoglio, would you swap it for your base M2 Comp? Before I went crazy and spent everything on the on the upgrades and the track build that I've done. Would I swap it? Probably not. Now I think the Giulia is it has a bit more feel. It's just, like I said, it's beautiful. But then the F87 is beautiful as well. Does it offer anything the M2 doesn't? It has a better ride quality. It has more expensive feeling suspension. It has more steering feel. But I think it's a sidestep. It's definitely not a downgrade or an upgrade. It's ultimately probably a little bit quicker because it's got an extra 100 horsepower. And they're probably very similar weight. In fact, probably the Giulia is probably a bit lighter. But you're sacrificing the fact that it's a bit lighter. They forgot to put some things in there like reliability boxes of magic that BMW do put in. So there's always, I don't know. If you can, drive one, borrow one. And if you can, don't borrow it to go around the block. Borrow it for an hour or something and take it for a good drive. Because I think it's a magic car, the Quadrifoglio. The Stelvio is arguably as good as well, which is really frustrating. The fact that these manufacturers are building these amazing sports SUVs, but they really are. Like a Stelvio Quadrifoglio is just a ridiculously fast and capable product, but it looks like it shouldn't be because it's a big thing on stilts. But it's amazing. Anyway. I am going to call it a night. I can see that there's still questions flooding in, and I really appreciate everyone's support through 2022. It's just been an awesome year. I've loved not every minute of it. I think we should finish talking about this, in fact. I hate the word mental health. I really do, because it just doesn't. It makes you. It kind of puts you on the back foot straight away, like mental health. But I think it's really important. This is the most important part of our sort of functioning body. Obviously, the heart keeps us going, but the mind is what drives us or doesn't drive us. And we all have ups and downs, and I think it's been a challenging few years with the COVID years. It really took a lot out of people. I was very lucky. I benefited from it in a certain way. Don't get me wrong. I was massively depressed and down through many months of, especially 2021, when all the restrictions and all that stuff came back. I could not deal with it properly, and I was in a bad headspace because of that. But you get through these stages and you get through these parts of life, and unfortunately for our generation, for us, we've had 2 or 3 years of relative, not hell, but it's been a complicated time. And I know some people have had a real complicated time and lost jobs, and then on top of all that, we've had inflation and everything that we talked about earlier on, and car prices, and how everything's just getting more expensive. This time of year, it's dark. It is depressing in general because we don't have enough sunlight. We don't have enough daylight, enough good weather. We don't get out enough, and therefore that naturally makes us feel a bit more depressed inside. And yeah, I just hope that everyone is in a relative good place. You don't have to be in the perfect place. You really don't. Really good quote that was on this little documentary I saw. Not documentary. It was like a little animation thing. It was like it was a hare, a horse, and a fox. I don't know. It was this little thing that I sat down and watched with Lou a couple of nights ago. Really, it's just lovely little it was just illustrations and little moving things. It wasn't there was a quote in it that I've now put on my Instagram profile, which is asking for help isn't giving up, it's refusing to give up. And that is the best quote I think ever. In fact, I'm gonna the person who quoted it is a guy called Charlie Mackesy. Asking for help isn't giving up, it's refusing to give up. And I think that's the most important thing in life. That's one of the best sentences and bits of advice. I know this is a car channel and I'm just blabbering on now, but that's so important. If you're not in a good place, talk to your friends and your family. Don't be too shy about it, especially without sounding sexist. Guys are the worst for it, so don't feel. But on top of that, go and get professional. Go and talk to someone professionally, because asking for help is definitely not giving up. It's the best thing to do. And I'm going to end tonight's conversation there, and I'll see you all very soon. I'll try and do one of these maybe at the end of January, because, like I said, I've had a great I've had a great evening myself with my wine and my beers, and my invisible audience that I can see in comments and numbers on the screen. Have a very happy new year, and thanks again for all of your support, and I will see you all in 2023. Cheers, or cheers in Tim's words. Take it easy.